Welcome back to the podcast. I have another fabulous guest with us this week. We have Sasha Ostara, who is a somatic and intimacy healer. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me in this space.
Thank you. We met officially in person in Costa Rica in 2022, I think, right? At
Mhm.
our SLRC Sex, Love, and Relationship Certification Coaching and Vita Coaching with Layla Martin. And it's been fabulous. I've learned so much from you on the cacao ceremonies and lots of other goodies along the way. And we just had a fabulous little chat pre-recording. So we'll see where we take this here today. But first, let's dive in. Who are you? Who do you serve? Give the audience a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much. So, I love the question. Who do you serve? I would like to take that to start with. I am a person that loves to serve women and people with vulvas to and help them connect with their power, with the depth of their power. Now, the uh, thing here is that I love to do this work in a way that is aligned to justice.
Mm.
My vision is justice oriented, is intersectional. I love to work with people that are from marginalized groups or that are just looking for a place where they belong to, a sense that are needing a sense of belonging and justice. So I serve justice. For me, that is a very important piece. I consider myself to be a priestess, been training since I was 12 years old in a sanctuary. Um, it's been a vital piece of my work. I myself come from a lineage of witches, my grandmother being the first example I got of being an oracle, which are the first life coaches in the
Mm.
history of the world. So she was an
Yes.
oracle. So I incorporated these pieces, the piece of justice, magic, and oracle, and healing as a empathic listener that I am.
Mm.
Um, when I say I serve marginalized people, I also refer to how I serve people that are neurodivergent, people that are racialized, people that are uh, that are going through deep struggles financially or in any way. Um, for me, the sense of doing this work comes from a place of serving. Just like a dear friend of mine, that is a very wise elder. I'm sorry, there's dogs barking. I hope that it's not too noisy. Let me
It's
just
all good.
activate the noise reduction thingy. Um, he has this saying that says, "Who doesn't live to serve, is not serving for life." So I,
Mm.
it's not suitable for life. So I really like the idea of serving, of being doing this work for the idea of serving people that are needing this work the most.
Yeah, helping people heal and become their most aligned, most purposeful selves, right? Like really locking into that. I love that.
And that part it's a little tricky. I ended up using the word healer because according to the people I have worked with, that's what they get when they work with me. But I am not sure that healing is what we need. I think that there's nothing broken in us. I think that
True.
what we need is just reconnection,
Yeah.
just connecting back to
Yeah.
ourselves. But a reconnector is kind of a weird word to use.
And I love that you mentioned that because, yeah, I say the same. Like that is one of the tantric philosophies of there is nothing broken within us. Everything is absolutely perfect. And yet most people modern today know the work we're doing as healing. And I still refer to it as healing because it is like coming back to myself. But it is that reconnecting back to myself, to my power, to my sensuality, to my sexuality, to my self love, to my core. that deep, deep coming home to who I am, who I always was. So, yes, it's not healing, but it kind of is, because I also kind of feel like it's like the layers of the onions of all of the trauma that we've collected over the lifetime, wherever we're at, has to be pulled back and healed to actually go back in to uncover who I was. Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I love that you brought that in. It is really, truly reconnecting back to who I was.
Yeah,
But the layers of muck, trauma, conditioning, heartbreak, our own trauma that we create in our own nasty self-talk and inner critic, even all those layers have to be pulled away and integrated and loved and accepted and approved and healed somatically in our body. And then voila, we're back to who we were always, which is our core
exactly.
true self. Yeah.
Exactly. I like to call myself, like, especially with people that I already know, a medicine woman, because that's what I think we actually do. We bring the medicine, and with this
Mhm.
medicine, people can do whatever is more necessary for them. There's
Yeah.
different layers of and flavors of medicine for each one of
Mhm.
us.
Mhm. I love that. I love how you named your grandmother as well, being the oracle, the first one of the original coaches, right? And that really resonated with me because people have been, throwing that name at my way for years, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what that really means. But yet, the deeper I come home into my own body and into my own self and into my own innate inner wisdom, the clearer the vision, the knowing, yep, this is right, nope, this is not, like the clearer the oracle kind of path has come, which is brilliant. It's just by going in and learning how to trust what is already within my womb space, my pelvic bowl, and learning how to listen. It's like, oh, I can get answers to anything I want that is true for me right then and there, which is
Exactly.
the oracle between our thighs.
Exactly. Exactly. The oracle that our bodies are as well, because the thing is that our bodies know what they need in
Hmm.
order to go back home. And
Hmm.
the idea is to invite this wisdom to be heard and to be expressed freely. And that's all we need, just to
Hmm.
listen to that oracle that our body is.
Already hold all of that. Yeah. So what is Tantra? Well, if you're going to break down Tantra, we touched on it a little bit. I'm asking everybody kind of to do this. What is Tantra to you?
Hmm. So for me, Tantra is, first of all, honoring the tradition where it comes from. It's a sacred tradition. From from that perspective, it's always important to recognize the roots. That Tantra is a sacred tradition that has opened up uh, and given so many people a glimpse of its magic, allowing us to connect with it and to find ourselves through this glimpse that, I must say, it's just a glimpse. There's, as any sacred tradition, there's deeper layers beyond that, that we need to honor, that we cannot pretend to know about, unless we have actually lived the life experience of the people from that lineage. But we have been honored with that glimpse, that allows us to reconnect with our own inner wisdom. For me, Tantra is that gateway that has opened just enough for us in the West to say, hey, there's a way to connect to life that's sacred, that where everything, absolutely everything is sacred, where sexuality is sacred, where the darkness in you is sacred, where the fears, the parts of you that feel unlovable are sacred, where even tangible things around you are sacred. And just that invitation, that little glimpse, it's more than enough for us to be in awe of this sacredness, and to start reconnecting to that wisdom, to that life that is so very present in everything and everyone.
Mm. Yeah. And you touched there the connection to the sacred, and it's the connection
Yeah.
of just really connecting to all that is.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That is for me um, something that all traditions have been holding, but many of them have diluted that wisdom uh, through the
Such a key
years,
point.
through the different moments in which they have been mixed with newer traditions or more monotheistic traditions. The beauty about Tantra is that it has held that wisdom untapped for long enough for us to now see it and access it and connect to our own wisdom through it.
Mm. Can you give an example for those who are listening to how have other traditions been diluted? Can you give an example so people can see? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually give the example of my own tradition. Like I am Mexican, and of course, there are many ways in which you are Mexican. There are 62 indigenous groups in Mexico, and each one of them has their own specific beliefs and myths and spirituality. Um, but the main groups, the two main groups in Mexico, especially before the conquerors came here, were the Aztecs that had conquered most of these groups, but allowed them to just to keep expressing their identities. Like it was not as an they didn't search for an hegemony, like for making everything the same. They search for that respect to these other traditions. But and the other group was the Mayans. But when the Spanish came,
Mhm.
our beliefs were um, not erased fully because we would hold up to them, but we had to mix them with Catholicism. So
Mhm.
we still to this day call our deities, who are our grandparents. We summon them. We dance with them. We feel them very much alive in nature. But most people have forgotten the majority of their names and instead are honoring uh, deities that came from Spain and that we disguised as these other deities. For example, just to be very specific, the Virgin
Please.
La Virgen de Guadalupe.
Yeah.
Uh, I have her image here somewhere. So La
I love
Virgen de
her.
Guadalupe is the main patron of Mexico. She's
Mhm.
they say that in Mexico we are not Catholic as much as we are Guadalupanos. We follow her even more. We are very passionate about her. But La Virgen de Guadalupe is actually the goddess Coatlicue, but it's like our tradition of goddess Coatlicue, who was the celestial mother, the mother of all, the one that was fierce enough to go to the underworld and to bring us into life and also into death, the one that held all dualities into herself, became La Virgen of a Christian or a Catholic. Well, Catholics are part of the Christian world, right? Like so,
Mhm.
they became a Catholic deity or entity. But in reality, we are still honoring underneath that the grandmother Coatlicue. So it's like that wisdom is still present. That wisdom of her life, her connection with us is still present. The cosmology of the Aztecs, the cosmology of the indigenous pueblos of Mexico is still present, but has been diluted by Catholicism. So, and
Mm.
that's the way in which
Mhm.
so many religions, so many mystic groups have been diluting their wisdom. It's still underneath. It still
They're
exists.
cherry picking, or they did cherry pick, um, going back to like kind of Rome and per se, they cherry picked the parts of the religion that they wanted to put out into the public. They cherry picked the parts that they thought, okay, you'll still align with this, and then you'll listen to us and you'll kind of move on over to the way we want you to be, kind of thing. It was very,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can see this in Cuba, we can see this in Rome, we can see this in every part of the world. But the thing is that the mystical traditions are still very much alive underneath, but you
Mm.
have to search for them. And the same happened in India. At the end of the day, Tantra has been a hidden tradition for a long time. It has not been until recently that it's been more open to the public, and again with some jealousy that it's very fair and very they are rightfully doing that, with some gatekeeping from their own tradition protectors, because it has to be protected. So
Mm.
that happens with all spiritual traditions. They have their elders protecting them so that they are not fully lost in this mixture of cultures.
Mm. Beautiful. I'm thinking, where do we go from here? There's so much like there's so many threads in there that we could play with. I'm curious, and I don't even know if this is going to go somewhere, but I'm curious because a lot of people do ask, well, I'm already, Christian or Catholic or whatever they may be. Does it feel aligned to talk about how can somebody decide to start to play with Tantra and still honor their original or what they believe in their religion, right? Like what their core beliefs are. How does one merge kind of the two and play with them both?
That's fascinating. I there are two ways to answer to this, and I'm thinking which one to go to.
We can do
The
both if you'd like.
uh, First of all, the thing with Tantra is that it honors the sacredness of life, and the sacredness of everything, of life and death, of shadow and light. Like it honors that sacredness, and we can find that any in anything in life. Like we can start honoring that sacredness without changing our religious uh, traditions. Like we can keep being Buddhist or Christian or Catholic or agnostic, and honor the fact that everything is sacred. Like honor that one piece that is actually uh, what has been open for us, because
Mm.
that's the thing. We have just as I said, we have just been given a glimpse of Tantra. We have to honor the fact that in reality the deepest secrets of Tantra are still being held by these guardians of their tradition. But this glimpse is big enough for us to change our life journey, to change our view of life, and to incorporate it into any way in which we want. Uh, the thing that it's deeply powerful. It's not just a nice phrase like, oh yeah, everything's sacred. Yeah, that sounds nice. No, it's an invitation to shift your perception of the things that scare you, the things that you've
Mm.
been trained to find as taboo, like sexuality, the things that bring us the most pain and the most pleasure. It's an invitation to go into a journey of daring to see ourselves fully as the whole of who we are, and that's not always easy. That can be the scariest thing that we do. So it invites us to see not just ourselves, but then to start seeing the other as that whole being that is also sacred. That to see their rage, to see their fury as sacred, to see the fear that we have as sacred. So it's a scary journey that it gives us enough homework for our whole lifetime. And
I love, yes, it does. And yet I
and
don't find it scary. Do you find it scary?
no, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. But I have seen many people finding it very, very scary,
Initially, I think I was like, whoa, what am I going into?
especially because the way in which we are implementing Tantra and the way in which I'm sure many people have heard Tantra that are listening to this podcast is related to sexuality.
Mhm.
Right? So, sexuality is a scary topic because
Yeah.
it brings the trauma, it brings the pain, it brings the pleasure. It's just as scary to connect with pain as it is to connect with pleasure. Like,
You've
oh
mentioned that
my,
a few times, and I love that. It's going into the depths of the pleasure and it's going into the depths of the pain. And you can't have one without the other, because without going into the depths of your trauma and your pain and your heartbreak, you actually won't feel as much pleasure. It's a lean into one and you get the other.
yeah, if you are limiting yourself with the experience of your grief, you are limiting yourself with the experience of your joy, right? That so
Yes.
you the thing is that most people have access the world of tantra through the gateway of sexuality. But tantra is not just sacred sexuality. Sacred
It's
sexuality
about
is a
8 or
piece of
10%.
tantra.
Yeah, 8 or
Exactly.
10% is sexuality in Tantra. It's
Yeah.
not all of it. But, some people are probably still listening going, but what is Tantra? So let's keep breaking it down. What is it?
So the other piece is that tantra in itself, it's still and should be still a mystery for those that are not living the life experience of India and their own pain and their own journey to hold on to their tradition.
Mm.
Because and this was the other part that I was going to mention before.
Glad you
um
came back to it. I was just thinking about it.
yeah, this wisdom was given to me by a Sufi. Sufis are the mystical tradition of of Islam. And what she said, this teacher was a very wise woman. She said, all spiritual traditions are like buildings. They are beautiful buildings on top, and mystical traditions are the underground tunnels
Mm.
underneath these buildings where all of us are connected, where all of us share our wisdom with one another, where all of us have a piece in this wisdom. This we say, yeah, my main facade is telling me this, but then underneath there is the mystical wisdom where we are all interconnected. My father
Mm.
used to say that it's like these trees that are from his land in Chiapas, where every tree seems to be very separated, but the roots are all connected. So it's that way with spiritual wisdom. Tantra is the mystical tradition of Hinduism. So
Mm.
the main building is Hinduism, the underground uh, tunnel is Tantra. And we have just been given a glimpse. Like if you told me, but what's the wisdom on of Tantra? I can say that what's the definition of tantra. I can say I just can tell you that it's the underground piece that we have just been granted as the West, and not just us, but the whole West, even those that are teaching it. uh, we have just been granted a part of those tunnels, like just one of the rooms of the
Access to
underground
one of them.
rooms.
Yeah.
But the truth is that it goes deeper because it is the life experience of the people that hold that belief. And what this
Mm.
Sufi teacher told me was, we share our wisdom between one another. The Sufis with the Hermetics, with the Kabbalistic, with the tantric wisdom, with the we are all interconnected in this
Mm.
piece, but we all respect the mastery of one another. We are
Mm.
all guests in this space. So I
And
feel like,
ultimately, if we go all the way back, it
yeah,
came from the same place. Like if we
exactly.
go all the way back, right? Like it's all just branches.
It's all these roots interconnected.
Yeah, roots is a better word. All these underground roots, other underground branches, all interconnected. And then, people are like, okay, so like, what do we do? I would say, okay, so my tantric practice looks like a way of living and a way of being even in my day to day, even as I sit here coming into approval, coming into acceptance with what is, coming into seeing the sacredness in this conversation, seeing the sacredness in my matcha and my shake that's beside me, in everything, and really just loving the connection that even you and I are playing with right now. And to get to that point, it took practices, it took rituals, it took doing my own healing work, it took, feeling my pain to also feel my pleasure. It took diving into my sacred sexuality, diving into all the corners and places in my life that are hidden, put away, dismissed, shut down, not liked, told are not good enough, told are bad, told that people don't like those parts, like all of those different parts of actually bringing them into the light and looking at them, and coming home to myself through these practices, through these rituals, through this philosophy of diving into all that is sacred and all that is connected, because it is connection. A lot of tantra is about connection, connection to self, connection to spirit, connection to sexuality, connection to the universe, connection to you, connection. It's those roots, it's those tunnels underground.
Yeah.
That is, it's so hard to explain, but that is tantra. And tantra almost, it's something that you have to experience and start to play with and start to practice with to get to those roots. It's using breath work, it's using practices, rituals. What else are we using? We're using so many tools. Like my toolbox is so full that I can't even list them all.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's the other very important piece. Yeah, everything is sacred, but how to access this sacredness? Because we in the West are used to access things intellectually, right? And if there's one thing that I think that many of us have found in this journey, through the this tantric uh, gateway, threshold that has been open for us, is that this journey has to be experiential, that we have to live it in our senses, to live it through our body. So it's not just the, oh yeah, everything is so nice and cosmically we are all connected. Like that sounds beautiful, but
It's
how to
deeper, way
experience,
deeper. Yeah.
how to live that through your body, that has been the journey. If I was to describe tantra, just like with everything that we have said, I would just say simply, it is the life experience of the sacredness,
Mm.
because you're experiencing it in your life, in your body, in your sexuality, but also in how you uh, find your connection with others through physical connection, physical touch, eye gazing, how you connect with your skin, through your senses, each one of your senses. That's how we have experience this beautiful understanding through our life experience, through our senses.
Beautiful. And the way that I break it down for my people, because we can't just go from A to Z, like we actually have to do some work to get there. I've
Yeah.
broken it down into kind of like three key words, which is like reclaim, reconnect, and remember. And what happens is the reclamation, the reclaiming is of the parts of ourselves that we've dismissed, discouraged, shut down, put away. We're not good enough. We don't like our body. We don't set boundaries. We people please. We are pretending to be happy when we're actually fucking miserable, right?
Yeah.
So there's reclaiming those parts of ourselves because of conditioning, because of, all of the things that are telling us how we should behave in this society.
Yeah.
And then what happens also is then we're reconnecting. We're reconnecting to ourselves, to our body, to our sexuality, to our power. What I find is our sexuality is the biggest place we have been disempowered for everyone. So it is actually almost like this quick fix, this quick portal into reclaiming and reconnecting back to who we are can be through sexuality, because it's the biggest part of ourselves that we have cut off for thousands of years. So by going back to that part, we reclaim so much of actually who we are. And then what happens in this reclaim and reconnect, I find, is we come into this remembrance of who we are, of our true authentic selves, of, oh, I don't need to show up in a way that is trying to make everybody else happy. I'm actually like core, true, aligned to who I am. I can read my own body with the oracle, like we talked about earlier, and I know exactly what's right for me, what is exactly the next step, even though my brain and maybe everybody else around me is going, "What the heck is she doing? That is insane." Right? But I can trust my body because my body will never lie to me. My body knows exactly the next best step. So that is the brilliant part of the remembrance that happens when we reclaim, reconnect, and remember. And I've done that through sacred sexuality and Tantra and learned how to come home in my body and reconnect through that tantric lens of I am sacred, my body is sacred, and my truth is sacred, even if other people don't like it.
I love that. I love that so much. For me, I have a variation of these steps of how to get from A to B.
Let's hear yours. Yes, please.
Yeah, and for me, the variation includes decolonization. I have four steps. The first one is decolonization. Then, of course, remember. Well, in my case, this remembrance comes through reclaim. So it's
Mm,
decolonize, reclaim, rekindle, and embody. So for me, this piece is particularly important because we're not living in a vacuum. We are living in a culture, and this culture has a huge impact on how much access we have to the resources to heal, and how much wounds we carry, how many wounds we carry, because an important piece is to recognize that for many people the game is rigged against us. For many people, uh, just the fact that they they need to see that it's not theirs to heal or theirs to fix, but it was somebody else's, uh, pushing them or poking them in order to make them feel that they didn't belong, that they couldn't make it, that they would never thrive. Just that recognition of how colonization works. For me, there are specifically these three evils that I think that we need to address. That are colonization. Well, colonization embodies it all. That are supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. And these three things push people from marginalized identities down. So it's not enough for them to connect to their pleasure. Because there's so much pain in between. There's the pain of being ignored, of being pushed aside, of trying so hard to get to that one point of pleasure and finding that it's always so freaking hard. So
mm,
that just fighting for survival every day of their lives. So that piece is important for people that are struggling with marginalization, for people that have been racialized or that have been pushed down by the system. So it's pretty much the same three pieces, like the embodiment, the reclamation or remembrance or rekindle, but the piece of decolonization for
mhm.
my people, for the people that I work for,
Absolutely.
is particularly important because um, we need to see that many of the things that we are struggling to heal are systemic, are not personal but systemic.
Yeah,
That
ancestors all the way through.
Yeah, and
A
and
lot of
that
pain.
really creates a different awareness when you realize that you cannot positive think out of something, that sometimes it's just recognizing that, yeah, there's a danger out there, that there's somebody out there that it's actually part of the system to keep you disempowered. uh, that can be such a game changer because we have been pushing so hard for so long to try to do the right things in order to get to point B. But for many people, that is just never possible because the game is rigged.
Mm. How do you help people then work through decolonization as part of your programming? What do you bring into that? I want to hear a little bit more about that.
First of all, there's the piece of awareness.
Mm.
Naming things has a great power. Uh, being able of saying these are your villains. This is not you. It's patriarchy, and it has been working like this. And again, patriarchy affecting men and women and everybody else. Like it's a system of oppression. Like understanding how the system of oppression works can make a great difference between, because it allows you then to see um, what's really going on and create strategies to make a change. So it helps you create a truthful strategy out of that system. Actually create a difference that works, because I don't know if this has ever been your case, but it's horrible when you do the work in a retreat or a class and you are so aligned and so in that space, and then come back to that one place or to that one person that
Throws
steals
you
your
back
joy
at
away.
in your
Yeah,
old
throws
life.
you back. And then you are wondering, why did I do wrong? Maybe I'm not working hard enough because I let other people take my joy away. It's like, no, it's a system. It's a system in which this person knows that it has control over you, and it's trying to replicate the system. So that happens in a major scale as well. So the
Mhm.
first piece is education, and the second is recognizing the very unique wounds that this carries, that are so specific to these marginalized groups. They are really specific. um, we cannot equate the journey of healing of a body that has gone through racism with the journey of healing of a body that has never experienced racism, and that it's just like, oh yeah, if I connect to my body, I can just feel pleasure towards a person that has experienced racism and therefore feels like their bodies are inadequate, there's something disgusting about their skin, there's something disgusting about their existence. They are never going to be seen as equal in the street. They are unsafe if they walk out the street. They have been fetishized. They have been used and abused. Like, there's a whole set of wounds
Mhm.
that these bodies carry,
Mhm.
and that
And it's not
recognition,
safe to reconnect with that body until you process that.
until you process those wounds as well.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they are just bypassing, and they
Mhm.
end up feeling that no matter what they do, they just never get to that point of healing that was so accessible to people that didn't have to go through that experience. So it includes that recognition. And then the last piece of decolonization is going back to how it's done for them, for their specific culture. For example, um, not just for their specific culture, but the thing with marginalized identities is that we move in communities. We recognize the need for a community, and we need to build back this community. And that's something that we differ from people that have never experienced that kind of journey, um, and have an easier access to individualism. So one is individual and the other has to be in community, because the wound
Mm.
comes from community and it needs to be healed in
In
community,
community. Yeah.
because their survival is always in community.
Mhm. And very similar in the parallel for relationship wounds that are healed in, or sorry, done and created in relationship, even from another person, can only be healed in the future going forward in another relationship,
Yeah.
in connection, because that's where it was created. So that's a good parallel for that. Thank you for breaking that down. That is really, really helpful and is so important. And it's so important to look at those pieces because, yeah, how do you reconnect to a body that you have shamed and or other people have shamed and you've also, and then on top of it, put it away and dismissed and pushed down. And there's so much built into that. There's so much built into that.
Or when it's still unsafe, like
Yeah.
in countries where women, specifically in India, how how um, how ironic it is that in India there's so much sexual violence towards women that they're to step up a little bit and behave in a way that it's unmoral in quotations. Like there was this famous case in which a girl was kissing or holding hands, not even kissing, with her boyfriend on a bus, and she suffered from sexual violence in return.
Mm,
So from the whole bus, so it becomes a dangerous experience still from
mm,
people, like the recognizing these differences. Like, yeah, from people in the West and in certain countries, the access to their pleasure is easier and safer than for people in other places in the world
mhm,
where we are still in danger every day, or where there's another set of rules about how we connect to others and to ourselves and to our bodies. uh, or simply so it's recognizing the differences, the cultural differences, and how they have impacted how safe we feel to feel,
mhm,
to connect to these powerful bodies that we have. Because okay, you might think that okay, that doesn't happen all the time. It has happened to isolated cases, but the wound of unsafety is carried by all of the people in that space. Specifically, as a Mexican, I can say in my country, and I always mention that, I always want to bring that awareness. In my country, 11 women are murdered every day
mm,
by their partners or people that, or specifically men. They are feminicides every day of 11 women. And that sense of unsafety is in every woman that lives in
mm,
Mexico, in our bodies. I'm not saying that Mexico is unsafe, because in the USA there's just as many, if not more, but it's not spoken openly. Therefore, that fear is not present in the bodies of every woman.
mm,
But here in Mexico, we know that, we are aware of that, we are fighting for that, and therefore it's very present in how we express our sexuality, because we know that that is a community wound that we are trying to heal. So
mhm,
yeah, we have personal wounds and we have community wounds, and both need to be addressed. Otherwise we are not really doing the work to heal.
mhm. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? So, because we are all connected, I also believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that I also feel that fear that all women probably carry around the world about being alone at night or going down a dark alley or, I still feel that.
Yeah.
And, as a white woman, like, is that, do you think, my own fear and my own history? Or do you think that is because we're also all connected and we also are all feeling that?
It's both.
Both ends, yeah.
It's one and the other. It's the fact that yes, patriarchy as one of the evil doers of this supremacy, because it's supremacy in three different layers, right? Like male supremacy, white supremacy, and economic supremacy. So uh, these three layers make us feel unsafe. The
Mm,
more they make us feel that the further we are from this sphere of power, the unsafer we are. So we know that as women, we know that we cannot walk alone in the middle of the night. We know that we need to be mindful of our surroundings all the time, because sexual violence or violence against women is very real everywhere.
mhm,
It's not in one space only. And then the recognition that there are many cases. Oh my God, this is happening in this part of the world, and this is happening in this other part, and that is affecting us collectively. So it's
mhm.
both. It's the
There's a
personal and
lot.
the collective. Yeah.
There's a lot to, navigate and heal within our own bodies, just so we can come back to our own bodies and to our own sovereign self and really know and be with who we truly are. And so that we can then go and show up in our power, in our purpose, in our true authentic alignment. And that allotness, like, yeah, that can be a lot. If somebody's listening going, holy shit here, that can seem a little overwhelming in the beginning. And yet I've found the journey Sure, there's overwhelming parts, but I actually lean into the overwhelming parts now because I trust. That's the other key thing that I have cultivated is that deep trust within my own body that I've got this no matter what. And I can lean into the fears. I can lean into my pain. I can lean into my grief, and I can bring it to the table as sacred and welcome it and approve of it and play with it and continue to deepen and deepen in my own healing journey. For me, it's also been a fun journey. It's like, we're talking about heavier stuff here, but at the same time, it's about reclaiming who you are. It's about reclaiming your pleasure. It's about reclaiming your truth. And there's a liberation and a freedom there that nobody can take away from you.
I feel like that's the one thing. Yeah, we have been talking about how hard it can be, and all the things that are rigged against us to get to that liberation, because it's important to see it. But then what to do to actually find life and joy through
Mm.
that, through that journey. And that's where it's so important to reconnect to our pleasure. That's where I have found the magic and the medicine of pleasure. For me, that has been the one medicine that works through the darkest uh, pieces in the world, through the darkest moments, because that reconnects us to a sense of deeper safety.
Hmm.
When you allow yourself to love your body, to connect to your body, to let your body process whatever it needs to process, you are giving your body the safety it's been needing all along, and you are giving your body the capacity to feel fully. And the beauty of that is that just that permission allows for pleasure to come and do the magic, and
Rise up,
to
just
start
as you're
healing.
handed. It's like rising up and coming to the surface.
Yeah.
And then that pleasure is also nervous system regulating, and it holds you and it fills your cup. Oops, I hit my microphone. It fills your cup and it guides you, and it just kind of, it has been a beautiful journey for me. What has your experience been like? And how has Tantra and diving into this whole realm, how has it changed your life?
Oh, it's been beautiful and deeply empowering in ways I didn't think I would ever feel as
Mm,
powerful. All of it, to from connecting to my rage, because it allowed me to see. For me, this has been a journey of opening my eyes and seeing the things that I didn't see before. So all of this part, the decolonization journey, has been important because I have been opening my eyes and feeling the rage and the grief. And then I've been feeling the pleasure, the expansion, the power that I didn't know I had,
mm,
the sovereignty I didn't know I have. And that has shifted my life and the lives of everybody around me, because all of a sudden I was able to find a place that I could call home, that was my own body,
mm.
find belonging into my own body, find aliveness into my own body. So
Peace.
peace and fire and
Mm,
drive, and inspiration. Uh, it's been it's been interesting, because you could say, okay, but what is this medicine that you're talking about? What has given you all of this? And the what has given me all of these, from the awareness, the rage, to the pleasure and the joy, and the most powerful spiritual experiences that I could ever have, and I have spiritual
yes.
experiences before, is just connecting to the medicine of my body. Like, if like it goes full circle. If tantra is the sacredness of everything, and the gateway is our body and feeling into our body, and one of the and that is sensual in itself, so it's the exploration of sensuality and sexuality, exploring this awareness without fear of what we might find, because everything is sacred, because whatever I might find in my body, whatever pain, grief, uh, it's going to be sacred. Then that becomes the medicine itself, the alchemizing medicine itself. So
By
uh,
reconnecting, by feeling, by
by
being.
feeling fully in the body, by going deep, like, okay, just what does it feel like to be present in my body right now, to do the practices to connect to the body, to
If
and
I'm
that,
angry, if I'm in my pleasure, if I'm in my grief, what do they all feel like? Because they're all welcome.
yeah. And that has been about doing the work. Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to get distracted and to focus on the outside, but then you do the work to reconnect. And again, it goes through all the ways from breath work to energy movement, through Taoist practices, which are my favorite ever, through the practice of presence and becoming aware of what your body is inviting you to do, which is somatic healing, somatic processing. That in itself is both the medicine and uh, there's this phrase that it's that we become medicine people when we chew in the poison and create medicine that
Mm.
from it. So we don't die from it, we create medicine from it. That's what happens when we connect to the body from
By
this place.
going into all the places that we've been most disempowered. So, colonization, patriarchy, what was the other one? Capitalization, sexuality, going into all of the darkest crevices that are on this planet that live in our body. That is the medicine where we come out
And
on the
we
other side.
chew on them and we
Mm-hmm.
make them beautiful, radiant medicine that shows up through our body and shines around us to those that have
Yeah.
permission now to experience their own bodies as well.
And it gives us full liberation and full freedom and full pleasure and outrageous orgasms and epic relationships and amazing careers where we feel aligned, where we're parenting from a place that's grounded and aligned, that holds boundaries. Like, this is what it creates, this is what it gives us. But we have to be willing to say, okay, let's pull back the covers and see what's underneath here in our own lived experience.
Yeah, and it happens naturally when you just go deep into touching your body or breathing through your experience or connecting to your pleasure. Sorry, there's a little bit of noise here.
You're good. You're good. That makes so sense. It's through the experience of going into breath work that you are just, coming into, okay, I released something there. There was frustration, there was anger, there was grief. Next time you go into something else, like your body will actually show you the way
Yeah.
through breath work, through a pleasure practice, through a meditation, through a ritual, through what else do we do? What other kind of techniques do we use?
Oh, for me, my favorite one again is the Taoist inspired JDEF, which
Jade
is
egg practices. Yeah.
so that's my favorite practice, and of course somatic practices that can go from well, nervous system regulation, somatic practices that can go anywhere from just giving yourself a butterfly hug to doing a whole
Shaking.
dance and
Yeah,
shaking.
to raging, to you name it. But the body is the way. Once we go in, we find our own path. And we don't, by the way, people who are listening, we don't go in and like go to your deepest wounds and start hacking at them. That's not what happens. Your body only allows you to heal and integrate what it is ready to. So it happens in layers. So you do little bits here and then you do little bits here. And it's like the onion. These layers of the onion start to come off slowly. And we infuse it with pleasure. And by then you're on your own journey that's like, oh my gosh, more, please. Even though I know there's more grief, even though I'm going to Costa Rica to work with Layla again in November, I'll know there's more grief, there's more pain, there's more uncomfortableness, there's more rage, and that's okay. I'm like, bring it. Because again, on the other side, I know I can trust myself and hold myself to the depths of my pain and my rage and my grief and you name it. but on the other side will also be more connection, more pleasure, more alignment, more truth, more peace, more joy, more love.
So I feel like um, it's an easy misconception because many people actually do it that way. They feel like the way to healing is through constant deep catharsis. And in reality, that's not how we work. We work through constant regulation.
Very trauma informed,
You
very, yeah.
constantly regulate. Catharsis used to be the way in the 60s and the 70s until people discovered that it just kept going. Like when you just,
Re-traumatize ourselves. It's not
yeah, no, that
healthy.
if you enter in catharsis, you continue being in catharsis. Like it's not something that you just turn off, and it can be deeply re-traumatizing. On the other hand, what we look for is regulation. And the thing with regulation is, yeah, we access the fact that I am scared and now we regulate. We access and there's release, of course, because there is digestion of what we are processing, but we come back to not center because a wrong idea about regulation is that we are like zen, like, oh, there's just peace, and there's regulation means being in peace, and it's not necessarily what it means. Regulation means that you go where you need to go. uh, I love the example of the little baby crying. When you see the baby crying, holding that baby and regulating with the baby is not saying, yeah, it's okay, you're gonna be fine, now you're
Shush.
calm, you're cool. Like,
Yeah.
no, holding, regulating with the baby is, what is the baby needing? Oh my god, it's crying, are you okay? Yeah, I'm here with you. And you start just creating this empathy where you come back, but you are not full. You go to the baby, but you're not fully in the same energy. You just create that empathy, and then you come back to your center, and then you come back to the baby and to your center. That's regulation. It's this going in
Titrating. Yeah.
and out, this titration, until it feels safe enough to move into the next phase, which is tending to the need. Oh, okay, you need a change of diapers. Let's do that now. That you stop. That you were able to stop crying. So, and that is regulation in real life. When we speak about, yeah, you connect to the grief and to the pain and to the joy, and but we're speaking about this, that we are unafraid of welcoming whatever shows up, and that we just allow this in everything that shows up, that we allow it to exist with that same love and compassion that we would have for this crying baby.
Yeah.
It's this sense of being present no matter what shows up.
And trusting that you've got this. And that's one of the key things that happens again by doing this work is that deep, deep seated, rooted trust that I got this no matter what happens.
Exactly,
Mm,
exactly, that you have it in you, that your body knows the way.
mm. Such a brilliant, brilliant episode. I really, really enjoyed this and being with you. We are going to put all of the links and all of your information in the show notes. Is there anything special you have coming up this fall that you do want to share and speak to before we send off?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I am relaunching my program on Tame, which is a compound of everything that I have shared with and taught. It's all the way through the decolonization to embodiment. It's a beautiful program with live calls every other week. I It's a program that it's deeply trauma informed, that it's inviting people to connect gently and little by little at their own pace, and at the same time having the live calls every other week in order to feel the support of the group. So that's my invitation to Untame, which is that group space of decolonization, embodiment, rekindle, and empowerment. And of course, my one-on-one coaching, which is open at the time, and where I would really love to welcome whoever feels called to do this work with me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. You can work with me. The only way in person right now is one-on-one, or I guess with me one-on-one is one-on-one coaching.
Uh-huh.
Oopsies. Alarms going off, of course, is through one-on-one coaching. And then my Jade Egg program is on my website, but that's not coached directly by me. That's a program you can purchase and you can continue to go deeper into the Jade Egg practice on your own. And then also Sacred Pleasure membership, which is a beautiful way to get a taste of kind of all of this and start to dip your toe in just a teeny little bit. And again, it's all pre-recorded and it's all on my website as well. But the one-on-one coaching i- is the place to be to really deep dive. I love group programs and I love one-on-one coaching. I actually participate myself in both because there's a beauty to both, right?
Yeah,
Like we said, there's certain healing you can do in community and there's certain healing you can do by yourself.
exactly.
It's a both and. So it depends what you're ready for and what you want to dive into. Do you offer free calls as well for people who want to find out a little bit more?
Yeah, I offer a discovery call, which is pretty much an information space where we get to discuss and explore and meet. And I also offer tarot readings, which is like
Ah,
my grandmother's legacy. So that's
love it.
a beautiful way to just connect without a deep investment or commitment. It's like one of sessions.
Oh, I love that. Started playing and studying more into the tarot last year. And I
Mhm.
love, but I'd kind of do it with myself only or
It's
friends kind of
my
thing.
passion. I just really love it.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Love that. Well, next time I run into you in a retreat, I'm going to be like, Sasha, have a little in-person, like one-on-one together
I would
tarot
love that.
reading. Beautiful. Thank you so, so much for being on the show today.
Thank
I
you
just
so much for
loved
this
connecting.
invitation.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And we're going to put all the links in the show notes. And if one of us aligns with you or you're not quite sure, feel free, to book a call. And if we don't align with you and you're still wanting to do this work of diving into sacred sexuality, Tantra, healing, reclamation of pleasure, you name it, let us know because we also know a few hundred other, if not thousand, other sexuality coaches that we can
Yeah.
definitely put you in touch with. We can put you in touch with somebody who is perfectly aligned for you. So till next time, everyone.